This is Conversations with Women in Sales, an award-winning podcast created by Barbara Giamanco, who hosted the first 67 episodes. Listen to interviews with amazing women about their journeys in their sales careers, often discussing sales leadership tips, ideas, and strategies. We aim to inspire women to consider a sales career and for some women to grow into sales leadership. Men, we appreciate your allyship. And now, your host, Lori Richardson.
Hi, everyone. I'm here today with Miram Ebrahim, and she goes by Mimi. And hi, Mimi. Welcome to our podcast. We're so happy to have you on this episode.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me, Lori. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I think I heard you on a Women in Sales podcast earlier, and it was a webinar perhaps, and it was a panel. And I was impressed by the fact that you've worked for a lot of different big brands and you're in leadership. And I was hoping to get your take on working for big companies as well as getting into leadership. And so I usually start back toward school. So when you went to school, you studied business in college and you got your MBA, in fact. And I'm curious what you were planning to do after that.
Yeah, it's crazy that you asked this, Lori, because I never thought in a million years that I'd end up where I'd end up today. I just thought I'd get a business degree and maybe do something generic in business. I got my first gig a couple years ago, like almost 2 decades ago, starting off in radio. Then I did media, and then I did CBS radio, Regis and Kelly, Rachel Ray, all the different types of broadcasting, and got into like the idea of advertising and also selling, but being like an entertainer and having that kind of presence. When it comes to selling, you have to have like that entertainment background because it all is you're really just entertaining and getting some people and getting them to talk to you, getting them to not hang up the phone. So I started my career and then I worked at Apple, and that was when the door was really unlocked for me that sales is where I belonged. And it was funny because I never thought really much of it. It was like a right out of college gig, and then it became a 9-year thing. And then I got promoted a couple times, became manager. And then from then I moved on and got my job at Apple I got my job at Google. And then obviously Google opened up the doors for Amazon. So it was kind of like a big trickle effect. You got to just find one place that you really like that you can excel in, and then the rest opens and unfolds really nicely.
Yeah. Did you have anyone in your family that was in sales? Did you even know what sales was?
I did not. My parents have been doctors. I'm the big black sheep in the family. But it's interesting because when I first started out, I was really young. I was 16 years old, and I was offered a job to be a telemarketer. And I said, sure, I'll sign up. And back then, that was like the only job. It was either telemarketer or work for the small mom and pop shop. So I picked telemarketer. I was paid like probably under the books. It was like $15 an hour. My job was to cold call, and it was to call and get social security numbers for people that wanted to refinance their home. So I knew nothing about the mortgage industry or rates or what it even means to own a house or what it means to have a mortgage. And throughout just learning and talking to people and sitting next to some heavy hitters next to me, I learned how to pull 9 socials a day. And that's when I realized, wow, I have a knack to talk to people. And all it is like getting them to listen to you, but it's pattern interrupting. It's making a joke or saying something funny or saying something different or being different. So I think I learned a lot about sales throughout just the hardest job. And I didn't think much of it. I didn't think this was going to be my route. I wasn't going to end up in sales forever. I thought maybe this was going to be my one-time gig, make a couple of bucks as a young 16-year-old and then move on. And then I realized, holy crap, if I can sell this, I can probably sell anything.
And were you impressed with Apple and their brand and everything? Is that kind of why you wandered in and talked with them, or was it just an opportunity that opened up for you?
Yeah. So I originally, after I was doing mortgages for a little bit, I was like, all right, I need to find like a real job because this was like a telemarketing job and it was illegal. I ended up working for T-Mobile and AT&T and Verizon at like a kiosk in the mall. And then from there, that's like me falling in love with plans and cell phones and technology and talking about different specs and what are the differences and like selling why somebody should buy a Razor over a Motorola or buy over whatever LG brand there was at the time. So I fell in love with that. And then when all my friends were leaving because the kiosk business wasn't doing well, everyone left to go to Apple. And I was like, I'll join Apple. It's cool. But I had applied and then got in. And next thing it became not just a retail job, but then it became an actual job where I was selling all the products and solutions across hardware and software and looking at like the Apple Store app and Apple Music. And then that kind of grew into learning about digital sales and marketing and learning about the SaaS industry and how that works. And then that kind of grew into me working with Google and then working with Apple and then working with Amazon.
So that got you into tech, basically, which is great. That's really exciting. The people on your team now, younger people don't really want to use the phone, do they? Or do they on your team? Is there?
Yeah, you know what? This is such a great topic because a lot of people are afraid right now to use the phone more than ever. I think if it's not embedded as a day one practice, you typically tend to fall off the handle or fall off of the patterns of calling prospects. And a lot of people will just email and email. But what really stands out is sending Sendoso, sending gifts, cold calling your prospect, like calling them on a Friday, right? Really early in the morning, calling them on like Monday from like the 8 to 11 time slot. And I think it's kind of like you have to work out that muscle. It's like getting up and going to the gym and working out Monday to Friday. It's the same kind of thing. You work out, you get up, your workout is like knowing that you have your routine, whether it's you hit the phones first and you send an email and then you follow up with the prospects that you mentioned or that you emailed yesterday. But I think oftentimes a lot of people just are not comfortable using the phone because it puts them on the spot. They have to now pitch or talk to somebody who they don't want to talk to or who doesn't want to talk to them in return. They have to make it fun at the same time. But I think phone calls are super important in this business. And people like to hear, who you are, who is this voice, who is this person, and putting a name to a voice is really important.
Yeah. And some people will answer, particularly if you let them know I'm going to be calling you on Friday. There's more of a chance. I know it's harder now for people to actually even pick up the phone. It's just so easy not to. But, there are ways, right? And if you've been good at it in the past, it's definitely one strategy. And it's like using LinkedIn. Not everyone is on LinkedIn where people's customers are, who they're not in tech or some business service, but some people are. So if it's a channel for some, just like the phone is for some, it shouldn't be a scary thing.
Yeah. And to your point, like there's other things too that like multi-threading throughout LinkedIn, you can use social. I've had people even like use voice dictation rather than texting their clients. They'll do a voice text. Hi, I'm so-and-so, or like using Drift or using Sendoso or using Demand, like just get really creative, find ways to stick out, whether it's articles that are out there, whether it's a video. I think putting a face to a name is important. Even if they never answer, it will stand out and someone will pay attention because I know if I got that, I'd pay attention.
Yeah. Maybe audio on LinkedIn is one that a lot of people don't do, but I know it gets people's attention. I know I always listen to it.
Yeah.
But
I do too. I always listen to audio, even video. Someone sends me like a 30-second video. Even if I'm not interested in the product or service, I'm like, wow, kudos to that person for trying something different because you better bet there's 100 people that are in my inbox sending me the same type of email. I'm so-and-so reaching out from, I want to sell you this and our product does this. And it's the same song and dance that no one wants to hear. Make it about them, make it about the why, make it about that. Yeah, essentially them and the why and the you. I'm reaching out to you. Here's why. And that's important.
Yeah. So how do you help motivate your team?
Yeah, I love this question. So I think persistence is really important. I think motivation is knowing that 100 no's just means that you're so much closer. You're much more closer now to a yes. And I think about the word no, and the word no just means K-N-O-W. And it means that they don't know enough. It's not a no forever. I've said no to things that I have now said yes to a week later. It happens. We're all human. It's all about emotional, psychological, we're human beings that like to be able to like change and see things and be introduced to new things and try new things because everyone's curious, right? So it's a matter of how do you unlock that curiosity? So when I tell my team, how do I motivate them? I tell them, think about the message, think about the purpose, think about the why, think about your mission, right? Think about your goal is to not get a response on day one. Your goal is to like build momentum. That momentum is important because no one's going to run a race and be done in 5 minutes. Like you're going to have to train and then run it and spend like maybe an hour and a half running a marathon or 2 hours or 45. Or the goal is that it's not to have it be built overnight. The goal is to lay the foundation down, then build the second layer, then the third, then you put the roof on the house and you add the windows and you add the doors. But little by little, what you're doing every day is you're adding revenue generating activity that's going to help you, right, get to that beautiful house, that beautiful metric, that beautiful result, that beautiful outcome that you're looking for, which is a phone call or a meeting or a revenue. And in order to do that, it takes a lot of effort, and it also takes being creative and also being patient. Being patient in the process is super important too.
Yeah, absolutely. And building up that trust because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's part of that building that house. Yeah, I agree. So you probably in all the roles you've been in, you've noticed the lack of women in sales roles, I would assume.
Yes, I have. And that's one of the reasons why I joined Women in Sales. I am a huge advocate for females, not only as a minority, I'm Egyptian, I'm also a mother, I'm also a female. I feel like not a lot of people understand it unless they are a female, a mother, and Egyptian, or from some sort of descent that is considered a minority. So for me, it's really important to speak up for the things that you want. It's also important to prove yourself, right? And how you prove yourself is by trying different things, right? Staying motivated, staying the course, right? Learning from your peers, learning from your mentors, not giving up, finding a way to learn about educational things like listening to podcasts, for instance, like listening to radio, listening to something on LinkedIn that you might have read, or reading articles and touching base with your community. And social networking is also super important as well, too. So I think if you do all those things and you find people in your corner, right, you'll succeed because you need a lot of people in your corner. You can't do it alone. You need a lot of people. My dad once said, to drive a car, you need tires, a steering wheel, an engine, gas. Otherwise, the car is not going anywhere. It's staying in the same lot. So
Right.
end of the day, it's a matter of finding your way to expose yourself to people and being open to them and being as receptive and as welcoming to them so they can be as welcoming to you in return.
And have you always found mentors and even sponsors that support you?
Yeah, I have. Throughout my career, there were actually oftentimes all men. And I was like, I really want a female mentor because men just respond differently than females. They don't necessarily always know what to say or how I feel or what's really going on in my brain because women are so multidimensional. So for me, it was like Women in Sales was the biggest outlet and channel, and also finding other females that are great sales leaders too and how they felt similar, and I wasn't alone, and that kind of helped me realize that a man doesn't know what it's like to feel alone, but
Right.
some women do it. So I felt like I had the ability to tap into other women who also might be minority, might be Black, Asian, right, Spanish, might not have their avenue or their outlet to be able to speak right out loud and to share about some of their best practices, their wins, and their successes overall.
You
So
can have both, right? Male mentors and female mentors. I know I had a
yeah,
lot of male mentors because there weren't any women.
yeah.
And the men, I work with some really amazing men. So shout out to the men who are supportive and good allies for us because there are some really great men out there. There are also some men that just don't get it. And so anyway, you have to really focus on who to support you and who to cheer you on.
Yeah.
That's great. I really appreciate having you on, Mimi.
Yeah.
And we'll watch your career and look forward to seeing you rise among the ranks. Thank you so much for being here.
Oh, Lori, thank you so much. And remember, you guys are not alone. I promise you, if you feel something that you are wondering, does anybody else feel it at work? You're not alone. At the end of the day, just find those allies at work, find those allies at home, find those allies in your social circle as well, too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conversations with Women in Sales. You can find all of our episodes at womensalespros.com/podcast. Help us spread the word and let's change the face of B2B sales.